Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Race to Power with me, Molly Gambhir. On the show tonight, we are starting off with the latest from Iran. The late Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has been laid to rest amid the renewed tensions between Iran and the US. What lies ahead for Iran and the region? And where do things go from here onwards? Also on the show ahead, ousted Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina says she and her party colleagues plan to return to the country around December and surrender. We get to the complete story and the implications. It's been more than 12 hours since Iran laid its assassinated Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei to rest. The final rites have ended. Millions, including Iran's leadership, mourn the loss. And now the question for Iran is what lies ahead, politically, diplomatically, militarily, especially when it comes to the war and the negotiations. Remember, Iran and the US are on edge after the latest round of strikes by the two sides. Iran's alleged attacks on ships in the Strait of Hormuz saw a response from the US almost immediately. American forces struck several paths in Iran while Khamenei's last rites were underway in Iraq. Following the strikes, both sides trading threats. Trump, in fact, had declared that the memorandum of understanding with Iran is dead. The statement came in response to a question asked during the US president's visit. Following the escalation in the last 2 days, in fact, negotiators are now scrambling to bring the parties back on the table for the talks. According to the latest developments, negotiators from Qatar are in Iran to de-escalate tensions and create conditions for broader negotiations to continue. The key objective basically is to make sure that the MOU signed by the US and Iran is implemented and the reasons behind the recent escalations are addressed. But for both the US and Iran, control over the Strait of Hormuz is the biggest point of contention, remember. Washington, along with its Gulf allies, pulling all stops to ensure Iran has minimal to zero control on the critical maritime passage. Tehran, on the other hand, treats Hormuz as its biggest bargaining chip. For months now, Iranian forces have mined the strait, attacked commercial vessels, reportedly reduced traffic through the waterway by an estimated 95% reportedly. And the result has been the biggest supply disruption in the history of the global oil market. Amid all of this, Israel remains ready to renew the war and join future US strikes, should Washington make that decision. For negotiators and for West Asia overall, it seems to be a race against time to avert fresh escalation. But can they succeed and do that is the question. And with us in the broadcast this minute is Lieutenant Colonel Daniel L. Davis, a military expert and host of Daniel Davis Deep Dive on YouTube. Thanks very much for being here with us on the broadcast. I have to begin by asking you for your reading of the situation right now. You know, we saw the burial of the late Iranian Supreme Leader delayed because of the war, and then came the renewed tensions while those last rites were underway and those ceremonies were underway. Now, where things stand, of course, Donald Trump saying that the MOU is dead, according to him. What do you think happens from here onwards to actually ensure that this spike in tensions does not result in all-out war?
Listen, the bottom line here is that we are nowhere near a resolution because the two sides are just absolutely entrenched on the opposite ends of the spectrum, and nobody is budging at all. The Iranian side has said since the time of the ceasefire in April, all the way through into the signing of the MOU and to this day, they say we will remain in control of the Strait of Hormuz and we will never do anything differently. And that's why even in the MOU, the signature in paragraph 5, the critical one, said that Iran would remain in control administratively even during the 60 days, and it specifically said only for 60 days. So Iran says we're always going to have control of it. That's not even negotiable. We, on the other hand, seem to think that it's going to be open, and President Trump has many times said there will be no fees charged now or later, And that now then we're trying to, even during the 60 days, say that we want to control a southern corridor north of the Omani waters, which is not authorized us in the MOU, which the Iranian side calls out. And then now then you have this differentiation over the interpretation of paragraph 5, but nobody's willing to budge. And when President Trump says this about, I think the MOU is dead, I think the ceasefire is dead, then you eliminate any possibility that the other side is going to suddenly concede, because they still have physical control over the strait. And we've seen that in the numbers of ships in the last 48 hours. I think barely any, if I think only one or two I've seen confirmed through that southern corridor, which shows Iran is still in control. And as long as that is the case and we can't force it out of their hand, this is going to continue on until we, I guess, give in to what the Iranian side wants, or there's not going to be a resolution.
Right. So the Strait of Hormuz and the tussle over that waterway, of course, is a very significant aspect of what's happening here. Also, the symbolism and the messaging, really, that's coming in from the two sides. But let's also talk about the Lebanon issue, for example, which also brings us to Netanyahu's stance overall as far as the war and the conflict is concerned. Where do you think things would head from here onwards on that front?
Yeah, that's if the Strait of Hormuz was the only thing we had to worry about, it would be a nearly intractable situation. You could probably figure something out, but it's not the only one. The Lebanon issue is the Strait of Hormuz was paragraph 5. This is paragraph number 1, because that is the most emotionally important thing to the Iranian side. And they say they don't want just a ceasefire. They say there has to be the withdrawal of the Israelis completely out of Lebanon, totally, and an end of the war. And the Israeli side has no possibility, no intent, no willingness to even contemplate that. They say, to the contrary, they're going to have a permanent security belt in the southern part of the country. They've already driven out 200,000 Lebanese people in what they claim is now something of a security buffer. And until you get rid of that issue, there's not possibility for even solving this. So that is the biggest, I think, the most intractable thing. And so Strait of Hormuz, you can maybe work with. This one, it's just almost impossible to convince the Israeli military to withdraw under pressure from President Trump and therefore from Iran to withdraw from southern Lebanon. I just can't see politically how Netanyahu could ever do that. So I think we are literally in an absolute impasse.
All right, we're leaving it there for the moment, but thanks very much for joining us with those perspectives.
Thank you.
Shifting focus for now to the other big development we are tracking. The ousted Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has said that she and her party colleagues plan to return to the country around December and surrender. In a telephonic interview to news agency Reuters, the country's longest-serving leader has said she and members of her Awami League aim to return voluntarily to the country. In fact, in the nearly hour-long interview, the leader said, I'm quoting, "They may arrest me on my return, they may even kill me. Still, I have to go. My party leaders and workers are being subjected to tremendous repression. If death comes, I want it to come on my own soil, where my parents are buried and where their blood was shed," quote unquote. In fact, another Awami leader who was deposed during the 2024 civil uprising reportedly observed that more than 140 leaders of their party were imprisoned allegedly in Bangladesh without any trial and have been languishing in jail since then, allegedly. The objective of the exiled leaders of Bangladesh, basically, when they return, reportedly, will be to ensure that a proper trial is conducted. The exiled party leader, in his latest statement, in fact, has backed Hasina's decision and reiterated a call for jailed Awami leaders to be allowed political participation. In fact, as far as Sheikh Hasina is concerned, this is the first time the deposed Bangladesh Prime Minister has set out a timetable for her return. She is facing a death sentence back home, remember, where her party is banned. Hasina fled Bangladesh in 2024 after the protests ended her 20 years as Prime Minister across multiple terms. The country's war crimes court sentenced her in November 2025 to death in her absence for ordering a deadly crackdown on a student-led uprising. She has denied the charges from exile, and according to a UN report, the crackdown that led to her downfall killed as many as 1,400 people. A return could sharpen political divisions as well, as the government in Dhaka seeks to restore stability after around 2 years of upheaval. On the other hand, it could improve the strained ties with India, which worsened sharply after New Delhi gave Hasina refuge. Bangladesh has repeatedly urged India to extradite her. Both Bangladesh and the Indian governments are yet to respond on Hasina's latest remarks. And for more on these developments, our Assistant Editor Foreign Affairs, Siddhant Sibal, getting us this report. Take a look.
Bangladesh's former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has said that she plans to go back to Bangladesh in December. Now, how and when it will happen is still needs to be known. She has spoken to, of course, an agency saying that she plans to go. But we know that Bangladesh has seen a lot of political changes in past few years after the fall of the Hasina government and coming off the Yunus government, which was seen as an unconstitutional government, but that government paved way for elections, and then we saw the Tariq Rahman-led government now in charge. So a lot of political developments, and how, of course, the people in Bangladesh will see the return of Hasina. We know that right now there is no public view in terms of how her arrival will be seen as, but Awami League in the past had a huge constituency, and how this dynamics will change if and when Hasina lands in Dhaka is also the big question. With video journalist Piyush Siddhansable for WION in New Delhi.
Shifting focus now to the United States, Donald Trump getting himself into a tussle with the country's Congress in a way, not just the Democrat lawmakers, but the Republican ones as well. The U.S. president has refused to sign a bill which basically both houses of the Congress have already passed unanimously. The bill is a landmark housing legislation to address cost of living crisis. His refusal is over the voting restrictions and reforms legislation that remains stalled. Despite receiving unanimous support in both houses, Trump has snubbed the bill. In a Truth Social post, he said, and I'm quoting, "I will not sign the housing bill in protest over the fact that the United States Senate is not capable of passing the Save America Act." In fact, the bipartisan bill called 21st Century Road to Housing Act is a joint effort by both parties to achieve affordability goals ahead of the midterm elections. Despite Trump's refusal to sign it, the bill will be implemented as law on Saturday, July 11. The move marks a rare bipartisan cooperation which basically overrides the president's powers. The cost of living crisis has been an election issue in the U.S., which was further compounded by the wars against Iran. The housing package implements approximately 60 provisions to ease regulatory barriers and make home ownership more feasible for Americans. The Tamil Nadu Chief Minister Vijay is in Karur today, marking his first visit to the area since the deadly stampede last year. In fact, the Chief Minister received a hero's welcome as he arrived there. Fans and supporters swarmed his vehicle and showered it with flower petals. Vijay met the families of the stampede victims and issued government job appointment orders to the kin of 32 stampede victims. A separate TVK event is also planned where Vijay is expected to announce a slew of welfare projects. Addressing a public meeting in Karur, Vijay questioned why the Karur police did not alert him about the uncontrollable crowd during the tragic September 2025 event. Pointing out the police alert that prompted him to cancel his event in Perambalur, Vijay asked why a similar alert was not conveyed by the Karur police ahead of the campaign event there.
Whatever heights one may reach, there will be a deep scar in one's life. The Karur stampede was one such in mine. While campaigning at Ariyalur, police advised me not to go to Perambalur as the crowd was heavy. They could have done the same before I headed to Karur from Namakkal, but they led me to Karur and I believed them. They even have the power to cancel a meeting, but they didn't.
Karur is one among the 7 constituencies that is due for by-polls in Tamil Nadu. Referring to the impending by-polls for which dates have not been revealed, Vijay urged his supporters to give a befitting response to his political opponents. Vijay also took on the centre over the delimitation bill without naming the BJP directly. Vijay asserted that Tamil Nadu would never accept the proposed exercise, saying no one would be allowed to take away the state's rightful place through delimitation. In fact, ahead of the visit, Vijay's government received a shot in the arm. The Madras High Court permitted Vijay's government to proceed with its decision to issue job appointment orders to the families of those killed in the Karur stampede. However, the court has clarified that the appointments will be temporary and subject to judicial review. And for more on this, take a look at this report sent by our principal correspondent, Siddharth MP.
Chief Minister Vijay's visit to Karur can be seen as a mix of damage control and political outreach. Damage control because he visited those that were affected by the Karur stampede tragedy and offered them government jobs. At least 31 of those from the bereaved families were offered government jobs. But of course, these government jobs will be based on judicial review and there will be certain conditions laid down by the court with regards to these government jobs. That is part of the outreach to the bereaved families, especially those that died at the stampede that took place at Vijay's TVK rally in September last year. As far as politics is concerned, Vijay hit out at the then Karur police and blamed the police department for the stampede that took place there and queried why the police had not forewarned him about the uncontrollable crowd and the potential chaos that was waiting to happen there. And as for political outreach again, Vijay urged all his supporters to vote overwhelmingly for his party and teach a lesson to the opposition parties in the upcoming by-polls. Karur is one of the 7 seats that will be going for by-polls any time from now. From Chennai, Siddharth MP, WION World is one.
Sheikh Hasina co-operator, the prime accused in the alleged assault case on doctors and nurses at a hospital, has been sent to 3-day police custody now. In fact, he and 3 co-accused were produced before a sessions court for extension of police remand. He was discharged from the Thane Civil Hospital this morning after doctors declared him medically stable. The alleged assault took place at a hospital on Monday where medics were allegedly attacked following an altercation with him and his associates. The Shiv Sena has since issued a show cause notice to him. Maharashtra Deputy Chief Minister has also reprimanded the cooperator. The case has sparked widespread outrage in the medical fraternity, with one of the resident medical officers resigning on the 9th of July. The incident has also renewed concerns over the safety of healthcare workers, especially in public hospitals.
That's right. In a significant development, Shiv Sena cooperator Ramesh Mhatre has been sent to police custody till 13th of July by Kalyan Court today. This is in regards to the case where he can be seen assaulting and hitting women doctors as well as other resident doctors that were present inside the Kalyan hospital earlier during the week. Now, what we understand, the next course of action as far as political sources is concerned, that tomorrow here in Mumbai, a meeting will be held between the Shiv Sena leaders, which will be headed by the Deputy Chief Minister of the state, Eknath Shinde, and they will be deciding that what legal action, apart from this, can be taken against the corporator. Either he may face disqualification or suspension from his duties. So this is something which will be decided in a day or two. But meanwhile, Ramesh Mhatre will continue to remain in the police custody till 13th of July. This is Isha reporting here for WION from Mumbai.
On to Peru now. The elections and the results may have been mired in controversy, but the new president-elect is already looking to make diplomatic strides. The country in focus is Mexico. Peru's president-elect has said that she is looking forward to re-establishing ties with Mexico, the statement coming at the back of a diplomatic row between the two countries last year. Peru and Mexico will be on a path to repairing their bilateral relationship at a time when both countries are being led by women heads of state, which is a first for Mexico. Peru, under the leadership of a new president in late 2025, had severe ties with Mexico after the country offered asylum to Peru's ousted leader. In fact, the ties were already strained after Mexico also granted a safe haven to jailed Peruvian president's family. Not just diplomatically, even domestically, the new Peruvian leader is going all out to ensure a smooth transition of power. It seems earlier this week, Fujimori met the interim president. Both leaders then jointly addressed the media to highlight their cooperation. Fujimori's actions also coming at the heels of a highly contested presidential election in Peru. Her political rival, who lost the election, had led a protest accusing the vote count of not being transparent. In fact, eventually, Peru's election body had declared Fujimori as the winner. On that note, it's a wrap on this edition of Race to Power. This is me, Molly Kampir, signing off. Thanks for watching.
The Israeli drone is above our heads all the time in Lebanon. More than 200,000 civilian homes have been destroyed. This looks like it used to be a toy for a little girl. Can't but wonder while I'm walking between all of this rubble, how many lives were destroyed, how many kids were traumatized, how many women lost their families. If this isn't a war crime, then what is? From the southern suburb of Beirut, I'm Radi Francis for WION. The World is One.
Get the latest updates. Breaking news. Credible, clear, continuous. Experts across aisles. Diverse voices, one platform. WION World is One.
In this rapidly changing world, is your health keeping pace? Best practices and breakthroughs busting the hype with real insights. The timeless power of yoga and ancient healing. Good food, good mood. Small steps, big impact. Your health matters. Only on WION World is One. Because nothing matters more.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called WION Wellness Center. The WION Wellness Center provides 500,000 square feet of natural methods to manage diabetes, hypertension, chronic pain, obesity, depression, anxiety, and other conditions. We use the traditions of centuries-old natural science from India, yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy in personalized programs that help you take charge of your own health. A minimum 5-day stay is recommended for best results. Book now at yo1.com.
Campaigns, elections, alliances, controversies, and power play. Stories that analyze global and domestic politics. A dedicated show with varied perspectives, expert take, citizens' voices, detailed ground reports, and in-depth coverage from political corridors of the world. This is Race to Power, only on WION.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
In-depth coverage of global issues broken down into facts, figures, and simple words. Backed with analysis from field experts who truly matter, because we believe in decoding the real picture for you. So you get a much wider and deeper understanding of stories from around the world, a 360-degree analysis. An award-winning documentary series, week after week creating the maximum impact. Watch WION Wide Angle at these times on WION, World is One.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Get the latest updates. Breaking news. Credible, clear, continuous. Experts across aisles. Diverse voices, one platform. WION World is One.
Vielleicht nur